What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Insurrection Inc. podcast. Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoy the show. Welcome back to the Insurrection Inc. podcast. This is Porter, your host, back after a short hiatus. I needed to get some things straight and give myself a little mental break.
Wasn't long enough.
Now everything... Yeah, apparently not. Because now the election draws near. I've gotten everything pretty much in order that I needed to, and I'm ready to unelegantly toss myself back into the realm of political discussion in America and the dumpster fire that it's become since I've left. That's gotten even worse since I took a short break, at least. It was always pretty bad. But on that topic, today we're going to be discussing. Wow. A little rusty there, huh? Going to be discussing, with an S, the upcoming election. We're recording this on Saturday. Hopefully we can get the episode out Monday or Tuesday. That's the goal, at least.
I think I was going to put an intro.
Jay and I were talking about that.
I think I was going to put an intro and slap this up today.
That works for me, too. Okay. Yeah, as long as we don't screw anything up, that has to be...
Yeah, nobody say anything that needs to be censored.
So, yeah, so that is the voice of my buddy Baz, whom I converted to libertarianism back in the good old days during high school.
Hello.
And he's been at least a pretty capable political commentator, in my opinion, ever since then. Very good at discussing current events with non-libertarians to make them see it from our side. So that's why we've decided to have him on today to discuss, current events, what's about to happen. So yeah, got the three of us on today. And Jay, you said you had some show updates to talk about before we jump into our topic.
Some show updates. So for everyone who missed the last episode, I already told Porter a little bit about this, but the last episode, I was the only host. I had Bullshito on. I had Ace on. That was pure coincidence. And Bird of the Friends Against Government podcast hijacked our show. And it turned very quickly into we are now a subsidiary of Go Fuck Yourself Industries. We do not own our own show anymore. Aaron, the homeless crack addict, is now our boss. So he's cutting our paychecks, Porter, so you better behave.
Well, we wouldn't really be an incorporated multinational corporation if we didn't eventually sell out.
No, it wasn't even sell out. It was a hostile takeover.
Oh, yeah, okay. That works too.
I'm recording with Bullshito, and then the second we get in, Bird just jumps in before I can even do an intro, and he just takes the show. Just steals the show and leaves after 15 minutes.
I have not listened to that episode yet, but I have queued up.
The first 10 minutes are fucking hilarious. Like, if anyone hasn't listened to it yet, it is legitimately my favorite 10 minutes ever of this show. It's a pretty good episode in general too. Bullshito, Ace, and I we got some interesting topics later on, like self-defense for women and the shitty advice that people give that's going to get them raped and killed. So, and we shit on that, and it all sums up to get a gun
or take jujitsu.
That was one of the recommendations too. Like, if you train with a gun and learn some martial arts, but still get a gun. Just get a gun.
Yeah, Baz, you take jujitsu, right?
Yeah, I do.
Jiu-jitsu is fucking scary. It is fucking scary. I told a story on the last episode where it's like I did a couple classes and this like 5'2" petite woman wiped the floor with me because I had no idea what the hell I was doing.
Yeah, Jay did jujitsu.
I did. You'll whip out your shekels and you just... I don't know where this is going. I don't like it. Anyway,
that was a really dumb, easy joke. It was low-hanging fruit. It was. Anyway,
everything on the show is low-hanging fruit. Porter, it's good to have you back, man.
It's good to be
welcome back. I mean, your break could have been a little longer. You know, you want to take another like 5 months off. You know, just go ahead. Feel free. Go ahead.
Baz can take my spot until then.
No, you know, we're not really like when someone takes a break, we're not really opening up new spots. So I'm encouraging everybody on the show to take a break.
We're having to downsize a little bit.
Yeah, I'm the
mismanagement of resources at the corporate level.
Yeah, really, Aaron is That's what happens when you have a homeless crack addict as your CEO. Anyway, topic. So we're talking about the election today, right?
Yeah, Baz, I don't know if I didn't ask you beforehand. Do you want to start off by talking about whom you voted for, since you did choose to vote, and maybe go through your reasoning?
All right.
If not, you don't have to.
So for president, I voted for Donald Trump because, see, I do not agree with Donald Trump on any political level at all, pretty much. But there's no logical reason to vote for a third party candidate. Like, our system is so rigged against that it is not. It's just not viable. There's no point in doing it. And I guess I one of the reasons I actually went and voted, because I don't believe the democratic system is moral, is because my dad just kept nagging me to do it, and I figured I might as well just go do it. So I went in, and yeah, I voted for Donald Trump, and then I don't remember the rest of the candidates I voted for. I'm mostly Republican, I think, but when it got to the smaller offices, I just kind of clicked buttons, to be honest with you.
Honestly, if we just had like a randomized system, like if you had to have political offices, if you were to fill them with just a randomly selected citizen instead of people who actively run for office, I feel like you'd probably get better results, actually.
Possibly.
Yeah.
That's what I do with the circuit court judges when they come up for a vote.
Just one option. For sheriff, there was just one option. So I wrote in for sheriff anyone but that one option.
I voted. I voted too. I did not vote for politicians, but I play a little game when the judges come up, where if I like their name, I vote yes for re-electing them, and if I don't like their name, I vote no. So I just look through the names. Like, you? No, I don't like your name. You? Oh, your name reminds me of Dick. You get a yes. You? No.
Yeah,
and then the amendments, because like I mentioned on a couple of other episodes, Florida has the amendment system where citizens get to vote on them. So it was like anything that seemed like it was going to expand voting, I voted no.
Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah, I haven't. I don't want to turn this into a discussion about voting and like how strategically wise it is or whatever. Like, that's not what this episode's about. But I will say I don't agree with a lot of the claims about voting being immoral. Like, as libertarians, it violates the NAP to vote or something like that. I think, like Baz said, I do think the whole democratic system as a whole is immoral, but individually voting to attempt to promote libertarian interests to the best of
I think we've talked about
ability, I don't think it's immoral.
No, it's just ineffective. It is really fucking ineffective. You're not going to get anything done. I like in a state with Florida where the referendum system is in place. It's just like, if I vote no on this, it's going to make my life a little easier for a little longer, but I'm not doing anything else besides that with it.
Yeah, I definitely get that. And the other thing is I don't like calling voting useless. I don't know if that's the right word, but I don't like saying it's totally ineffective, because
it's pretty close to useless.
Yeah, on the individual level, yeah, like on the margin, you basically don't affect elections at all with your individual votes. That's true. But if voting was useless, I think we'd be a lot better off.
But like something like the New Hampshire Freedom Project, that's a way that voting could be used for like libertarian ideas.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I think once in a while you luck out. Like the last gubernatorial election was the last time I voted for a person. And I voted DeSantis because he was still better than the guy running against him, Gillum. And this year that has paid off because DeSantis has been one of the better governors in this country.
I'd argue the second best governor in the country, behind only Kristi Noem of South Dakota.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I'm very pleased with DeSantis.
If Kristi Noem ran for president as a Republican and got the nomination, I would actually consider voting for her, purely because of her performance during the COVID-19 pandemic.
I'd say the same thing with DeSantis. DeSantis has done a very good job. I was very upset with him for a while because he was very wishy-washy and wouldn't take a strong stance. But then these last 2 months, he just came out the fucking gate swinging, and it has been an onslaught.
Yeah. So let's kind of talk about what we think of. Obviously, so this is like a foregone conclusion. We know either Joe Biden or Donald Trump is going to win the election. And there are a lot of libertarian arguments for voting for Trump, and very few, if any, for voting for Biden.
There's a Twitter page now, Libertarians for Biden.
I think I saw that briefly before I kind of quit social media 2 weeks
It's
ago.
bad.
I hate it.
I would
Yeah.
bet money that is made by probably maybe I don't know, maybe just a Trump supporter that thinks it'll draw votes.
No, there's actually a real story behind this page. That this is a woman who is a public figure. Her husband is running for a position as a libertarian, and she is actively against him because she's voting for his opponent, who is a
What?
Democrat.
Bro, I would divorce my wife. Like,
Yeah. This
I'd
is
be like, you're not gonna fucking vote for me. Nah, I would
yeah.
divorce. my wife.
I this is completely unrelated, but I wanted to talk about this, so we'll go on a 2-minute tangent here. I see people ask every once in a while on Twitter, like, should I date this girl even though she's a socialist or something like that? Or, you know, my girlfriend has radically different political views than me. Should I continue this relationship? And a lot of the time, most of the responses are like, yes, as long as it's working out between you two, it's fine. And I actually disagree with that. I think to a certain, I mean, you don't have to have the exact same, like, you don't have to see eye to eye on every single thing. That's okay. But to a certain extent, political differences are a difference in personal values. Like you have two very different value systems, and I think that should be compatible if you're going to spend a lot of time with the person.
Yeah, no.
Pursue it.
I can agree with that actually.
Yeah, 100%. I think, like, for people like us, the best thing we can hope for is a girl who is apolitical.
That's also that's entirely acceptable. That's actually preferable in my opinion.
As long as like if something shit happened, like she would be down with helping out with the homestead and shit, like we're straight.
Yeah, when I'm on Tinder and I see a girl with BLM in her bio, I'm just like, nope, no, you belong to the streets. Swipe left. It's like, really, that's just code word for I want a black guy to fuck me. That's all it is. When I'm seeing these white girls with BLM in their fucking interest, it's just like, yeah, I know what you're looking for. So let me save me the time of swiping right. Like, I'm not gonna match with you, even if I do. I'm not what you're looking for.
In the tanning machine for a long time.
If I find a cute girl on Instagram, like who goes to my school or something, then the first thing I do, as long as it's a public profile, obviously, is scroll down to June and see if she posted the black square on the Blackout Tuesday thing. If it's there, abandoned. Nope.
Belongs to the streets.
Yeah, if you're willing to virtue signal that hard, then we're not compatible. That's just what it is. It's not that I don't like I can still be friends with people with different ideas, but in terms of pursuing a different a different level of a relationship, like a more significant relationship, something long term, that's not compatible. Anyway, that's not related to the
I mean, it sort
election,
of is, but not really.
Yeah, it is related to the culture surrounding this stuff and how the increasing politicization. You know what I'm trying to say. I'm not going to even try to say that again. Politicization. Yeah.
Yeah. Never mind.
Yeah. Everything's politicized now. Let's say that. That's definitely an accelerated trend from 2020. It didn't just start with the BLM stuff, although that certainly helped accelerate it even further. I mean, COVID was really one cause, and then just the fact that all this happened in an election year made it that much worse. I think there's going to be a stronger reaction against that than what a lot of people who are engaged in it are betting on. Especially, I mean, people like us, we're interested in politics. It's one of our hobbies, so
for some reason, none of us like it. That's the weirdest part. We don't like it, but we're still here. Like, what the fuck are we doing?
We're all anti-politics, yeah. But here we are talking about politics.
Are we masochists?
But I agree with what you're saying there. Like, I feel like the Democratic Party as a whole has been like taking the issue with COVID, and they have been like stretching it, like milking it as much as possible.
Well,
they talk about, like, if you watch MSNBC, like they talk about COVID deaths all day, every day, and like if you hear them talk about it, like they talk about it like if someone else was president, like these people just would be alive. Like these people, like 200,000 people would just be magically not have died.
Yeah, because dude, obviously the state can control a brainless microorganism that is consisted of a single cell. If
Well,
you just vote hard,
they
if you
can
just vote the
tax
right
us
way,
more.
if you vote the right way, then they'll control the virus. Obviously, the virus just needs a strong state. That's
Virus
why
just needs Joe Biden to tell it to stop.
the virus needs Joe Biden to sniff it, and it's going to go away.
Once Kamala Harris becomes vice president, police will just stop killing black people because they just will. That's
Yeah,
Mom.
BLM.
she has such a great track record with that.
Okay, that's the other thing is like you'll hear a lot of people say like if you're not voting for Joe Biden, like you are privileged because like minorities and LGBTQ people and poor people are like in physical danger if Donald Trump gets reelected. Like if Donald Trump gets reelected, like people are just gonna start killing gay people and black
Yeah.
people. Like what?
And, you know,
He's
that's-
already president. If he was gonna like put gay people in concentration camps, why hasn't he already done that?
You know, that's the funniest thing. Like, here's another quick tangent. Not to defend Trump or anything, because it's just infuriating that they attack him for all the wrong things because they never want to indict themselves for the right things. It's that this dude, what do they have on him for being racist? He wrote one thing about the New York Five or whatever the fuck it was in the 90s, and nothing else he's done has really been racist. He's the only Republican president who supported gay marriage his whole life, but he's a homophobe somehow. But then Joe Biden gets off completely scotch-free. It's like, who else besides Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are responsible for throwing so many?
Joe 1994
How many
Bill Biden, like that might as well be his
Who-
middle name.
yeah. Who has more responsibility for throwing the most black people in prison besides Kamala Harris and Joe Biden?
Bro, like
Yeah.
if someone went back into the past and killed baby Joe Biden, like there would just be like so many black people not in jail that were now in jail. Like think about all those lives that would be being lived right now, like out of jail. Like they'd have families and shit like that. Well, at least some of them will, and they're not. They're in jail because of Joe Biden.
Quick side note for the federal agents listening: we do not condone killing baby Joe Biden. We only condone killing grown-up Joe Biden.
Mm.
Oh, I can't wait for the FBI to knock on my door.
not.
But we said, well, no, we're not going to censor that.
No.
Anyway, yeah.
Just wait for the. just set up your Claymore Roombas tonight.
I only have one room, but I can't risk it.
That's
do we-
part of it. Like people voting for Joe Biden actually think they're being rebels. They're, like the supposed counterculture people are voting for Joseph R. Biden.
Because they
Is-
think wearing a mask, they're a rebel. They think going to a Black Lives Matter protest, they're the rebel. They think they're the rebel for everything. They're so fucking delusional.
I mean, it comes down to the culture. It's always the culture. Like Andrew Breitbart, who I think was probably the smartest conservative of the past 30 or 40 years, at least.
Yeah.
It's a shame he died so young. Obviously, I'm not a conservative. We're not conservatives for like that's separate from libertarianism for very good reasons. But we do share common interests at certain points, and especially culturally, as I lean right. That's separate from libertarianism, but I think it's important because these things get tied together. But his famous quote was, "Politics is downstream from culture."
I think he was killed.
And you think?
Mhm.
I mean, I can
Already
see it.
died.
I honestly don't know enough about the circumstances of his
He
death.
had no he had no conditions that would make him just drop off a heart attack one day on the street. But there's this drug that the intelligence agencies have that can induce a heart attack, and they use it with a needle that's so like they shoot a almost microscopic needle that it cannot be found in an autopsy that causes this to happen. So
Fucking nuts.
That's a new conspiracy I haven't heard, but I'm
it's
open
it's
to it.
believable. It makes
Yeah.
sense. Breitbart was probably the biggest threat to the political establishment at the time.
Oh, absolutely. And it's a shame that his publication's been taken over. Not to the extent that some other publications
Yeah,
have.
it's not National Review, but it's not Breitbart anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, you're saying
Oh.
about politics downstream from culture.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of where my dilemma comes in. Like, how much does Donald Trump matter to libertarians and to the right in general, because we're all specifically right libertarians, or at least that's how we classify ourselves.
Yeah, we've
today,
done that.
most
We've done that
accurately.
episode already. I think we
Yeah, I
decided.
was
Yeah,
about to say,
there's no better title for us, so let's just stick with that.
and
Free market libertarians, Austro-libertarians, something along those.
Yeah, but I mean, just if you're going political quadrant, because not every libertarian is an Austro-libertarian.
Yeah,
and-
that's true.
and in terms of like strategy today and who we ally with, it's no secret that like the left is a greater threat to liberty. Obviously, there are factions of the right.
Whoa, now you sound pretty alt-right, man. I'm gonna tell the normie LP guys on you.
I don't care. They've never gotten a cent from me, and they never will. And
Jesus Christ.
so one, yeah, it's no secret that the left is the greater threat, and even the so-called libertarian left, the culture they endorse and the allies they pick are significantly more authoritarian than I think even the worst aspects of the right that are still mainstream. Like obviously the very worst aspects of the right would be like the neo-Nazis and stuff, who are arguably worse than the mainstream like corporate moderate left.
It's a pretty close call, but yeah.
It's pretty close. But the difference is the neo-Nazis aren't mainstream, and the worst aspects of the authoritarian left are mainstream. They control the universities. They control the heads of, pick a random Fortune 500 company and ask who their CEO is voting for.
Yeah.
That should be a lesson, right? What major corporation with a social media presence didn't post something about Black Lives Matter? I mean,
pretty hard to tell.
And so this is kind of
maybe like Hobby Lobby.
Yeah, I mean, I said with social media presence because like there are certain kind of zombie corporations that just haven't fully engaged with the modern means of communication.
Did the Waffle House post a black square?
Some corporations just like aren't like even like they don't interact with the public. Like some of the biggest corporations just deal with other businesses, and the public doesn't even know their names, but they're just fucking giant and they have so much influence.
Did Raytheon or Lockheed Martin post a black square?
They might have. I do know that one of them won like a human rights award from an LGBTQ organization.
Yeah,
for
that is
being
that.
in the workplace.
That is peak neoliberalism.
It was, but that's the thing. Like all the ones that have actually intense customer contact, like Baz is right. There are a lot of huge corporations that are just on the business to business side, but the ones that actually interact with customers on a daily basis, the vast overwhelming majority of them are all socially very progressive. Progressive in air quotes. That's
when the mobs come now.
That's exactly it. Yes. That's one lesson here is no one will save you from the mob. I mean, it was the CEO of Chick-fil-A,
which Vietnamese church got burned down last night. Just the Vietnamese Christian community is really a threat to Black lives.
And then there was a couple days ago, maybe a couple weeks, I don't remember when it was. I saw the story on it though. Like a few Chick-fil-A's got burned down where there were riots going on. Maybe Louisville, probably, because of the Breonna Taylor protests.
That is a declaration of war.
Yeah, well, it is, first of all, but one, like Chick-fil-A has been slower on the uptake. They've definitely been more of a conservative corporation, but even just a few months ago, the current CEO of Chick-fil-A publicly shined a black man's shoes to show solidarity.
I did,
or something like that.
Oh, they are ruining our holy land. This is our holy site. What the fuck are they doing?
and still, I mean, your location gets burned down anyway. Like, you can't save yourself from the mobs. That's one lesson to take from this, is that bending over to this, I think what Hoppe calls it, the anti-fascist mob. Says crush the anti-fascist mob is one of his lessons for libertarians. And so,
but Antifa is an idea, not a group.
So one, bending over to them doesn't ever work. And two, they still control most of the culture because people do bend over to them no matter what, no matter the consequences, even when it doesn't work, because these people, for the most part, aren't actually ideologically motivated. A lot of them are just opportunists.
Yeah.
And this is kind of what Biden is beholden to, whether he wants to be or not. So that's what it means to cast a vote for Biden, I think, which is why it's completely indefensible for anyone who considers themselves on the right to be on the right, whether they're libertarian, authoritarian, even neoconservatives, which a lot of whom are voting for Biden over Trump, which should tell you something.
Yeah, dude. This fucking advertisement I got for Biden, where all these big name neoconservatives like McCain's fucking widow and John Kasich and all these other people are like telling the reason why they're voting for Biden. It's like, who are you convincing here? Who are you fucking convincing by bringing neoconservatives up? How fucking out of touch is this campaign?
Yeah, like they know why Trump won, right?
No, they apparently they fucking don't.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, actually.
I swear the Democratic Party just doesn't realize like how a lot of it really is just like rural voters and shit like that, and like a lot of them and old people, like they don't realize how inactive they are in like mainstream culture and like Twitter and shit like that,
because they want these people dead.
Yeah, but when those people come out to vote, then they realize, oh, I mean, because if you remember before the 2016 election, I mean, like no news station was reporting that Donald Trump like had a good chance to win. I mean, like all of them were like Hillary Clinton's gonna win. Like,
because they don't care about these people, Bass. They legitimately want these people dead. Well, like Sam Hyde said, these people want you dead. They want your kids raped and brainwashed. It's what the fuck do they care about these people?
And they think it's funny.
Yeah, and they think it's funny. They're out of touch.
That's the end of the quote,
yeah.
and they think it's funny.
Yeah, I forgot about that part. Yeah, they think it's funny. They laugh.
CNN,
they laugh
like,
at this
making fun of like uneducated or like rural people, like literally like
they want these people dead, man. So they
like
don't give a shit. They want them dead. They don't give a fuck about their vote, and this is why they're out of touch, because they think they're better. And they think that they deserve the fucking world. They don't give a shit about other people. They care about who's in their in group, and they cater to that. And they hope with every single election that their opposition is just going to wither off and die.
Yeah, and when you react to it, when you tell them that they're stupid and elitist for taking this position, this attitude towards people who disagree with them, they call you a populist. And I'm not a populist, but the problem is I'm not an elitist either, but it's not that I'm against the idea of elites. It's that these elites are so terrible, so unimpressive, and so evil that
somebody had been listening to Dave Smith.
No, I actually haven't.
That's quite literally what he says. He's ripping out Tucker Carlson with that one. So has someone been listening to Tucker Carlson?
Yeah, I actually have heard Tucker Carlson say that before.
There you go. You're both ripping off Tucker.
Yeah. And so it makes you side with the populists, and you know what? I'm okay with that for now. I'll take it.
Yeah.
But I mean, something else. I sent this to Baz earlier today on the Snapchat like stories page. I don't know what it's called. They promote random degenerate stuff fairly often. Today, the very first tile on there, under the For You section, which is interesting because I would never in a million years click on this, and I didn't. But the title of it was, I think, I don't have it in front of me. I'm just going to go from memory. I think it was why I'm proud to be trans and a lesbian.
I'm proud to be trans and a lesbian, and it is the most disgusting, vile creature I have ever seen.
Yeah,
my eyes.
It's like
that's the thing. It's the picture.
Not an autistic kid. What's the?
It's like Down. It's not even Downs.
Down syndrome. Down syndrome.
No, this is worse than Downs. This is just.
Dude, whatever it is,
definitely a Down syndrome kid.
You know what this looks like? Have you guys ever seen Harold and Kumar something with the White House, where the one where they get mistaken for terrorists? Oh, no. Harold and Kumar escape Guantanamo. And there's this scene where they escape from Guantanamo and they end up in this backwoods Hicks house, and he has this really hot wife, and then they find out it's his sister, and in the basement they have this this incest creature who is the most fucked up looking thing. It looks like Sloth from the Goonies. And this is who's taking a piss?
Oh, I was pouring a glass of water.
Oh, okay. I was like, are you pissing right now? And yeah, this thing looks like Sloth from the Goonies.
Yeah, okay. Aside from that very colorful illustration, thank you, Jay.
I'm a writer.
The point is, whatever this person has,
But this, I don't even want to call it a person, dude.
dude, the picture is clearly of someone who is mentally and physically disabled, and I guarantee you, they are not able to think clearly and rationally for themselves and make decisions about their sexuality and how they identify.
And if
Which
she's
means they're being
trans,
manipulated
if
by
they're
whoever made
trans
this
and
story. I didn't
lesbian,
click on it. I don't know the
wouldn't that
details. I don't care. But
No,
they're being
I-
manipulated by someone who wants to use them for some political, cultural message of, progressivism. I don't even know what to call it. That's not progress. That's regressivism.
Bullshit. To quote our new CEO.
Yeah, exactly. It's what Aaron calls bougie prog bullshit. That's right.
I love Aaron, man.
And it's just straight up abuse of disabled people at this point, and that's whether you like it or not, and whether Biden knows it or not, that's who you represent when you vote for Biden. So that's completely indefensible to me. That's something I would never do. But so despite all of the crimes of Trump, which are many, I mean, he's a president, it comes with the territory.
Yeah.
So there's the argument for voting for Trump, is to stop whatever the hell that is on Snapchat and in the corporations and Chick-fil-A's CEO virtue signaling,
even just to
and the
slow
black
it down.
squares on Instagram. What'd you say, Beth?
Even just to slow all of that down, even just to
Right.
stop, just Biden's gun control, gun control,
That's of all. It's not
ideas.
really something to compare Trump to Biden because they're both fucking awful on that topic. But another thing with this is propaganda 101. This is 100% propaganda. It's not like Snapchat is aimed towards younger teenagers, and I am one of the last people to call out degeneracy. So when I call it out, there is something really fucked up going on, like the OnlyFans epidemic. But this shit where it's like, I'm proud to be trans and lesbian, or when they post a kid who's going to child drag queen shows and all this shit, and it's like, this is propaganda. And they are such heavy propaganda machines, and people don't seem to realize it. Like, when every single corporation is telling you to vote and telling you your voice matters, your voice does not matter. And your vote does not matter. You are part of the machine for them. You are cogs. Because when Snapchat is telling you to vote, when Instagram is telling you to vote, Facebook, YouTube, fucking Tinder has been telling me to vote. Tinder.
They just want your permission to rule you.
Yeah. And what is the subcontext when all these people tell you to vote? Go vote for who you think is fit, or tell you to go vote for their candidate. Because when I get ads on YouTube for all these minority packs, which for some reason I keep getting black packs for Biden, which I don't understand. And it's like all of them, you'll see that it's paid for by this voting committee, and then they just have the Democrat logo next to them. You're not even hiding your propaganda. Like, anyone with 2 working brain cells, which is not a majority of the population, can see right through this bullshit.
It's like, get out to vote. Don't you want to tell your grandkids that you tried to vote Trump out of office? Like, your vote matters unless you're voting for Trump.
Yeah.
And
I want to have to explain to my grandkids what a president was.
Yes.
That's the goal.
But oh my god. So who do we think is going to win?
Oh, Trump. I
think Donald Trump's gonna win, but I hope so, because I just think that would be better off for our freedoms. I think that would give us a longer time to prepare for any.
I've got a point I want to jump off with after this, but I think Trump, just ever since the first fucking Democratic primary debate, I have said Trump is gonna win this because they put up nobody up there that can do it. Biden has done the best he can, which still has not been great. In the debates, he didn't do any of his mind-breaking gaffes, but he was getting really bad in the last one. It was terrible. And now that Trump got a 3rd Supreme Court justice, and if they want to take this up to the court, it's going to be in Trump's favor. So I think the Democrats have overplayed their hand entirely here, and I just don't see all the early voting. I think this was one big scare to get people to not vote for Trump. The early voting, the majority of the voters are going to be voting early this time. Well, how many of them are going to have their ballots thrown out because they can't follow simple instructions? How many of them are going to get disqualified because they tried to go to the voting booth and vote in person, and then their vote gets disqualified entirely? How many people are going to be disqualified from early voting?
Well, also, Tho Bishop of he's the communications director for the Mises Institute. He's been following this very closely on Facebook in particular, which I've been using more in my hiatus from other social media, unfortunately.
That's not an improvement, dude.
Yeah, no, not at all. But he's been tracking these numbers, like what data is available on the early voting, because sometimes like you can see what party registration the person who voted early was, and so you can kind of guess what they, who they voted for from there. And the numbers in all the important states are in Trump's favor. Like the majority of early voters have been old age boomers and Republican registered voters.
It's really this, and the margins, even in the states that he doesn't need, they're very slim. Like there's no upper hand for Biden, even with the early voting. Like in some states, he's up ahead 100,000 votes. Well, that's not a whole lot for a lot of states. Like that's not even a city.
Yeah, that's very true.
So it's really, I
That'd
think
be like
Trump's gonna get
10% of Colombia, or
Yeah.
wait, you said 10,000 or
Yeah.
100,000.
So it's like that's really not a whole lot. Like these are not good margins for Biden, and then that's only a fraction of the voting. Like the rest of it, the majority is still going to be in person. And I think like the fucking mad lad Trump, when Biden said he didn't support ending fracking, and then Trump calls him out on that, and he's like, "Man, I never said that." And he's like, "Yeah, there's video of it." And then in the middle of the debate, Trump just tweets out a video with all the times Biden has said on this campaign trail that he's going to end fracking. That's going to go against Biden's favor in places like Pennsylvania, where he needs.
Yeah, exactly.
So
where fracking is like their way of life.
Yeah, but I don't. So here's the thing. Here's why I think it doesn't matter. It's not that. I mean, of course, it doesn't matter because presidents are going to be presidents. They're all going to be awful. A Democrat doesn't really get a whole lot done when they're in office. A Republican doesn't get a whole lot done. They just come together on the worst things. But I think the greater place where America is at right now, where the polarization is so intense, and like that article you wrote about like 1 or 2 months ago, Porter, that there's no coming back from this. And after this election, no matter who wins, there's going to be rioting. There's going to be people fighting in the streets. We're not coming back from this, no matter who wins. If Trump wins, yeah, the left is going to be out in the streets. I think we're at a point now where the right is going to start coming out and it's going to start demonstrating, and it's going to turn violent again, like in 2016. And we're reaching a point where we're getting closer and closer to the collapse of this whole system. And there is going to be some form of civil war going on, and not in every state, but there's going to be in a lot of places. There's going to be mass violence, and this election is a turning point. No matter who wins, we're not turning away from it.
And I think,
yeah, go ahead, Beth.
I hope Donald Trump being elected will slow that process down at least a little bit, because I think Biden being elected, if his gun control policies really were passed and gotten through, they would be, I guess, Trump's gun control policies obviously are bad, but you can't really argue that his would be worse than Biden's, because Biden's are, I mean, like he wants federal bans on AR-15s and shit like that.
Here's the thing. This is what I've called out several times. That the call for an assault weapons ban on a federal level is always political theater, because Obama had gun control on his agenda, and he had 2 years with a full House and a full Senate in his favor, and they never touched guns. And then once he lost that, he started talking about it, because that's when the Republicans get riled up and they both get their votes and they both get to blame the opposition. Gun control is political theater. It happens the most on the state level, where it's more achievable. On the federal level, more gun control gets passed under Republicans, so the Democrats talk a bigger game, but the Republicans get more done. And look at under Trump, it completely skirted the legislative process. It went straight to the bureaucracy, because the ATF has been acting up really badly under Trump. So even though the rhetoric from Biden is worse, the reality under Trump.
You cut out?
Oh, where did I cut out?
The reality under Trump.
Oh, the reality under Trump is worse.
All right, I guess that does. I get that. That does ease my mind. I guess what I'm worried about is I want to be, because I'm young. I'm 19, so like I can't even own. To buy a pistol, I would have to buy it through a private seller, and I want to do that soon. But like, I'm just young and I don't have a lot of money, and I want to be able to get like gear and supplies and stuff before something like that happened.
Good luck in this environment.
Exactly. I mean, right now it's so expensive, and if something happened right now, I'd just be fucked. Like, I'd have to go start. I don't know what I'd do. I'd have to go rob fucking gun stores.
Yeah, I think we're not at a point of the collapse yet, but the fractures are getting wider, so we still have time to prep a little more. We just have to be patient this year, but after this year, once things get back in stock, there can be no excuses. You have to start piling up on ammo.
And I think that is definitely what I'm gonna be doing. I'm gonna buy a pistol. I'm gonna buy an AR. I'm gonna start getting stuff for the AR. I'm gonna buy plate carriers, and I don't know about night vision and all that, but I'm gonna buy all the basic shit that you need and start buying like medical gear and food that you could store. Anything like that would help in some sort of scenario where you need to rely on yourself. And just learning and starting to grow your own food and learning how to do that. Because, like, I mean, if something does happen and you don't have those things, like, it's just rolling the dice. Like, 9 times out of 10, you're probably just gonna get looted and killed. Like, someone's gonna come to your house and take all your food and shoot you. So,
yeah, okay, so
it's not something you need to play around with. Like, I think anyone that cares about or wants to make sure that they live a long, happy life needs to consider that possibility.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. But to add on a few points to what y'all are saying, one, Baz, to play devil's advocate for your side against what Jay is saying, kind of the more cynical view of Jay, is I think the left is getting more serious about actually doing what they say. Like, yes, politicians are always going to be politicians, and there's always going to be a lot of lies and deception, like what happened under Obama that Jay described. But I think when people show you their worst side and promise that they're going to do horrible things to you, it's in your best interest to assume they're telling you the truth. So that's one thing. Because if you underestimate what they're willing to do, then you've put yourself in a much more dangerous position. And that ties into what you're saying about being prepared for this worst case scenario, which I think is unfortunately a possibility. And another thing is, I don't actually think there will be a civil war after this election. I think the election is the civil war. It's barely masked at this point. I think the culture war is more of a bigger thing. I think it's naive for libertarians to stay out of the culture war. You can still keep it separate from actual libertarian principles. That's fine. That's good. Actually, you should do that. But I think basically, I saw it earlier today. I was thinking about it. I went to get a car wash actually, and on my way back, I was driving through a neighborhood in my city that I don't live in it, but I know it pretty well. And there were 2 houses literally right across from each other on the side of the street. One had like 6-yard signs that were all Republican candidates. Lindsey Graham was one, the Senate candidate. There were at least 2 Trump-Pence signs. There were a few other like lower level congressman signs. Opposite side of the street, house literally right across from it. Same thing, but all Democrats. Jamie Harrison sign, Biden Harris sign, all the same thing. Like, these are people who would probably be friends otherwise. At worst, they would just ignore each other, right? And instead, it's basically like it's staked out sides. You got your own territory on either side of the street. It's a red versus blue civil war. This is what politics does to people. And so I think it's kind of already happening. Now, I do think we're going to see some level of actual physical violence after the election, regardless of who wins, especially if Trump wins. But I think you'll see it from, some people on the right as well if Biden wins. Not necessarily aggressive in that case, but like it might embolden some people on the left. You might see retaliatory violence. I don't know. I don't know exactly what to predict there. I think there will be some sort of increase in tensions, but I don't think it's going to break out into all-out civil war yet.
Not yet. And I'm not saying that November 4th there's going to be civil war, but what I'm saying is that the violence is going to continue escalating, because look at the last 5 months. This is unprecedented in the last couple of decades that there will be sustained rioting, sustained property damage, all these people getting hurt over practically nothing for 5 fucking months straight. It's been a long time since there have been riots that bad. And this violence that people see this and they see that because it's ingrained in the mindset now that Joe Biden either has no opinion on rioting or supports the rioting. And the left obviously has concrete opinions on Trump and Trump supporters. So this doesn't get better. The violence is only going to escalate. Look in 2016 when far-right groups started going out specifically to fight left-wing groups in protests and in marches. And the rioting is only going to get worse. The violence is only going to get worse. So it's going to be a couple more years, but you will start to see the tension grow more and more until this escalates into something more nefarious.
Yeah, and we did an episode on this already, but just wait until the trial for Derek Chauvin starts in March. And I still think he'll get acquitted of at least one of his charges involved with killing George Floyd. And that's just going to be the beginning, especially if Trump is the current president, which I think he will be. We all think he will be. Then it's going to be that much worse. And so, but there's something else I've been thinking about, which is how much does Trump really slow all of this down?
Oh,
because Baz, you said you hope Trump wins, and I definitely understand that. I hope Biden loses, but I don't know how much Trump really matters in this. He's definitely anti-political in the sense that the establishment definitely hates him. The media hates him. He picks fights with pretty much all of the right people most of the time, which is fun to see. And so that's all satisfying and good. But part of me wonders if maybe the right needs to lose, because I think a lot of them see Trump as like this false savior, or they see him as a true savior. I think he's a false savior. I don't think he's going to be able to really stop this, because like we talked about earlier, like all the other major power centers are dominated by the left, but culturally and politically. And like the universities all basically endorse communism. My English professor is a Marxist, like straight up, not even hiding it. McCarthy was right, by the way. And
he was. He was.
You know, my favorite quote, I didn't realize he's the one who said this, but my favorite quote that I found recently, McCarthy said, "McCarthyism is Americanism with its sleeves rolled up." It's a great quote. But and so like Hollywood, the universities, the corporations, several wings of government, just not the executive branch, are all dominated by the left. Like the bureaucratic institutions within government are dominated by the left. And then so the right it has the appearance of being in power because it still holds the Senate right now. It still holds the presidency. I think it will continue to hold the presidency. But how much does that really matter? And does that give them like a false hope that they're winning? Because the truth is they're not winning. Like Snapchat can put literal videos and stories of disabled people being abused as long as it's in the name of cultural progressivism and get away with it. Like you would have been arrested for that 60 years ago. And I don't think that's what Trump means when he says "Make America Great Again."
No, Trump doesn't slow it down.
And
he doesn't slow it down. That's full stop, because the right are natural born losers because they don't understand this game. They are still caught up in politics. They think politics is the way to win it. And they've lost. They lost a long time ago. And like Rothbard said in that piece we discussed a couple of weeks ago, right and left prospects for liberty, or left and right prospects for liberty, conservatism is long-run pessimism. They're constantly playing the catch-up game. They never assert themselves. They're constantly reactionary. They're the progressives of yesterday. They don't win because they have nothing. They've relegated themselves to the political sphere and the political sphere only. Like that tweet you had. Porter's most successful was like almost 5,000 likes.
Yeah, it's more than that. I think it got up to like over 6,000.
Yeah, like you said. What did he say in the tweet?
Well, I'll see if I can remember it off the top of my head.
About letting your enemies teach your children.
Yeah, I said that's what it was. It was conservatism is when you let your enemy teach your children, and then you write National Review articles about how you don't know why you're losing the culture war.
And that's why they don't win. Like Malcolm X said, only a fool lets the enemy teach his children. they've lost, and they've lost in the long run too. Trump was their Hail Mary. This was their last ditch attempt at affecting the politics, but they still don't understand because they're not cultural influencers. They don't understand the culture. And this is also my disappointment with libertarians. Libertarians have a better ability at affecting the culture because libertarians should be closer to the ground on this. Conservatives can't make good media, but libertarians can. Like, there are a lot more artistic as well as autistic libertarians that can affect these things, but we're so caught up in arguing over minutia that we can make propaganda. We are look at Boogaloo Boys. We can't even do violence because what do? They go out and hand water bottles to Black Lives Matter protesters while they burn down buildings. Yeah, so much for private property, guys, right? Where libertarians are just as hopeless as the conservatives. The loss has been in the long run. The right cannot win this. And even if they lose, they're going to be like, well, the liberals are controlling the politics. Well, no. Republicans have controlled politics for the last couple of decades. There have only been like about three Democratic presidents for about 6 or 7 Republican presidents.
Yeah, so that's a good point that you just brought up. Actually, that's something I hadn't thought about. But is maybe even if Trump loses, they won't get it right, because that's kind of what I was thinking of. Is like, if Trump were to lose, I don't think he will, but if he were, then maybe they'd start to question why they're losing. Like, how did we let this go so quickly? And I was hoping they would come to the, start coming to the right conclusions, maybe get part of the way there at least. I think you might be right, actually. They probably still won't, because conservatism is inherently flawed, full of logical failures. But so I don't think they will recognize why they're losing, and so that's why they're doomed to lose in the long run, especially. So maybe I do want Trump to win, like Baz said, just because it will, to an extent, slow down the left, but I'm not hoping in him like a lot of mainstream right-wingers are. And I don't think he's going to, represent any long-term victory, but I'm okay with him just, keeping on pissing off the left for now. Like, I'm all right with that.
He might slow some things down. He'll slow the political crawl, but the cultural crawl has only been sped up and amplified by him because now they have this this boogeyman personified that they get to rally against, and it's given them a lot of strength. So this really is a hopeless situation for the right. And I've been thinking about this. I listened to Aaron the other day on Peter Quinones' show. There's only 2 ways out of this, and neither one includes the ballot. Like, either you have to make freedom for yourself, or the bullet has to get involved at some point. Maybe you don't have to shoot it yourself, but I think there's hope for us playing the sides against each other and watching them, sort of obliterate each other.
Yeah, I'm not sure I agree with that, actually. I think desire
everyone ends up losing if there's like a mass civil war, unless I don't know. I really don't see many scenarios with a big like revolution or civil war where
I don't think
it ends up a good thing.
But the fracturing of everything, the division of everything, the balkanization, the polarization,
that would be a good thing. But I think an actual war, on the other hand, would not.
But if the situation gets too bleak, then maybe we should learn how to manipulate the sides a little better and try to get on top ourselves, because that's what our enemy has done. And our enemy
if some sort of like fracturing of the states did happen, I think the best strategy for libertarians would be like the New Hampshire Liberty Program thing, is like for all of us to literally move to one state and establish our own sort of territory.
You mentioned it twice. You haven't got the name right a single time.
I don't know what it is, man.
Free state.
I just know the idea.
Listen, I don't want violence to happen. I don't want a revolution to happen. I still think freeing ourselves is the best way and divorcing ourselves from this. But if it comes to this, then we should be a little smarter than we are, because libertarians just have not been able to affect anything. And this is the failure of libertarianism. I really hate that this is such a pathetic group of people with such a great ideology.
Maybe there's just not enough of us.
It's not that. There's not enough of us because it's such a pathetic group. Because this group can't message. This group can't enact any change. This group can't enact any cultural change. We're not good at outreach. We're awful at it. Look at the Libertarian Party and how terrible that is. In a year where businesses are getting shut down over nothing, and then their buildings are getting burnt down, so they can't even come back to it when their state opens up.
We should be able to like get some libertarians in this political climate, but
you would
but
think
no,
that's the perfect time. You would think that's the perfect time for the party that is based off property rights and non-violence to come in and be like, hey, you have been screwed over by the state. The state has bolstered this issue on both sides, and we have a solution. No. They say nothing on the lockdowns. They don't give a fuck about the absolute most tyrannical thing that has ever happened in this country. And then they don't talk about it. They come out in support of the people that are rioting and burning down businesses. So what the fuck is the point of these people? What is their fucking point? They are pathetic. They dominate this group. And then the rest of us spend too much time arguing with each other online than doing anything. And we spend too much time trying to convince people that are entrenched in their ideologies to affect anything. It's a pathetic group with a good ideology. So where the fuck do we win?
Well, this kind of I'm kind of circling around back to where we were now.
Yeah.
But I just thought of that kind of leads into this, or at least reminded me of what I was thinking. So I was saying how I don't think Trump's going to slow this down, and maybe the right needs to lose. But I think either way, like regardless of whether Trump wins, actually, there's not going to be a good result or a good reaction from the right, people who are potential allies for us, at least. Because if Trump wins, then the mainstream right goes, "Oh, we're winning. We're okay. We're beating the left," which isn't true. We've established that. And if he loses, then they say, "Oh, it must have been a problem with Trump. We got to run somebody who's not that." They're going to pick all the wrong attributes of Trump to go after, like the fact that he fought against the left, like he actually made them hate him, is the best thing about him, maybe the only good thing about him. And they're going to see that as the problem and say they need to be more reconciliatory and cooperative with the progressives. And that's just gonna, that's what conservatism does. That's what it's always done.
You're going to get another McCain.
Yeah. That's why conservatism is so pathetic, dude. We rag on National Review a lot because they deserve it. The founder of National Review, and who's supposed to be like this great 20th century conservative thinker, William F. Buckley, his famous quote is, "Conservatism is standing athwart history yelling stop." Think about that for a second. That's such a pathetic description for an ideology. Yeah. Like, all you do is just you look at progress and you yell at it to stop. You don't even it's not active, it's passive. It's just, please stop, please don't. it's you're asking politely for them not to brainwash your children.
Man, the libertarians are just as fucking bad.
Yeah, and it also shows that there's no principles in conservatism. Yeah. Because it's pick a point in history and then hope it stops there. It's not, you're not aiming for anything, you're just aiming to prevent whatever's next. Which means that's why, whatever Fox News' opinions are today are what the New York Times thought 30 years ago.
Or 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's accelerated for sure. Yeah. It's now 10 years ago, 6 months ago.
Conservatives stand at thwart history and yell stop. Libertarians fly "Don't tread on me" flags, and then they don't even really complain when they get
tread on.
Yeah. Don't tread on me. Oh, well, a lockdown? Okay, we won't say anything.
Yeah. The difference there is
we have principles.
Conservatism is a pathetic ideology with a pathetic group.
Yeah.
Libertarianism is a good ideology with a pathetic group.
That's
the logic is actually right.
Yeah,
we just need to learn how to promote it better.
We're just fucking terrible. What a sad. The world is sad. Which is why you had the best idea, Porter. Just unplug as much as you can. Go live in the real world where things don't seem as bad. They're bad. They just don't seem as bad. You get to live a little more peacefully as the world burns.
That's why I said when we were discussing at the very beginning, talking about your significant other, whether you should have the same political opinions, I said someone who's non-political is actually preferable to someone who agrees with me. Although they're pretty close. Yeah. I would take someone who agrees with me any day.
Good luck. Let's find right-wing market anarchist GF. Oh, those are so plentiful.
So that's, I mean, good luck finding someone. That's another reason to despise it's primarily the left. Obviously, all sides of the political spectrum have been engaging in it this year, but it's primarily the left who is pushing to politicize everything. That's another reason to hate them, is that there are fewer and fewer people you can find where you can have a discussion about anything but politics. And like, if you ask them what their political opinions are, they're just like, "Oh, I'm not very political. I'm not interested in it." That used to be normal. Like 4 years ago, even you could find a lot of people like that.
And now politics is like a reason to hate someone. Like whereas before it was like you something you disagreed on. Now it's like if you support the other political party, like you are literally like a racist fascist, and I hate you, and you're a white privileged bitch, and I hope you die, and you're a cop, and you know.
And Porter, imagine finding a right-wing market anarchist girlfriend, and then she's also a religious Christian with a low to no body count.
Dude, stop! Stop!
It's hopeless, man. It's hopeless. You got to get the 30 body count art ho communist. Jesus Christ!
To each his own, Jay. To each his own.
Man, I'm sort of refining my religion. I'm not too keen on these people anymore. But I still don't want a Jewish girl because they're so Jewish.
They're so Jewish.
And ugly. And then the hot ones are basically just like, your regular progressive high body count Goisha. It's not really a difference.
Goisha.
Oh boy. Anything
covered the bases.
Yeah, anything else we want to get out of this, or?
I don't think so. I mean, I haven't said so. You both already voted. I currently don't think I'm going to. If I do, it'll be on Tuesday in person, since I'm close to home. But I don't think I'm going to. And actually, all right, one more thing. So since I'm a member of the Mises Institute, I get a copy of the Austrian, which is their publication they send out once every 2 months. And my mom texted me the other day. She's always been like, she's never been happy with me about the fact that I don't vote. She's always, I mean, she was a public school teacher before she had me. So like she quit after that. So she's been a stay-at-home mom for 20 years now. But she was for a very short time a school teacher. And so you can imagine, she's not a progressive, definitely. She still leans conservative, but she's very moderate. Always been, she's exactly where the mainstream wants her to be as a conservative, And so you can imagine her opinions on voting being a civic duty and stuff like that. And so she's always hated the fact that I don't like voting. And the other day she texted me, she's like, "I've been reading your copy of the Austrian that came in, because it gets delivered to my house and not to my apartment where I'm living for school." And so she's like, "I've been reading your copy of the Austrian that came in. It's pretty interesting. Are you going to vote this year? Or are you going to sit it out?" Like, she was giving me the option. She was like, "I'm going to go vote on Thursday if you want to come join me, but you don't have to." I was like, "What is this? What is this tone change?"
sounds like she read a bit too much of the Austrian.
Yeah. So slowly but surely, like, we're cracking away at some people.
Was there any Hoppe in this edition?
There wasn't. It was the interview with Dave Smith. That was the main feature of this one.
Interesting.
Which she said she looked up Dave Smith on YouTube as well. Which we're one step closer, boys. We're getting there.
Imagine your mom starts listening to Dave Smith before you do.
Still have never listened to an episode of his podcast.
I don't blame you too much. His show is sort of like Fox News for ANCAPs, but it's good. I like him.
I've listened to him on several other shows. I listened to that episode that was transcribed in that issue of the Austrian. I listened to the audio version of that on Radio Rothbard. I've listened to him a couple times when he's come on Scott Horton's show. So like I've heard plenty of his stuff. I listened to his YouTube special Libertas, which is really good. So like I'm aware of him, but I haven't actually listened to his podcast.
His show, he's good. He is a good ANCAP. I like him. He's great. But if you look at it like, him and Tom Woods are like the Fox News for the ANCAPs, and then you got like Peter Quinones, who's like the InfoWars for ANCAPs.
That's a very good way of putting it.
and they'll interact. You know, it's allowable for them to interact, but obviously one of them is more culturally extreme than the others. I think that's a good place to wrap it up.
Yep.
Or do you want to take us out?
Yeah, thank you for listening to Insurrection Inc. Back on my first episode in a couple weeks. Although I didn't miss many, haven't been too productive since I've been gone.
Yeah, I've been pretty busy. I've been meaning to get more solo episodes out. I got a couple people scheduled on the roster, so it's gonna be interesting. But
yeah, so thank you for listening. Go check out that last episode Jay did with Bullshido and Bird.
anyways,
And we will catch you next time after the election to do a little post-mortem wrap up and maybe some other things. So see you then.